Hey, beautiful people. It is July the 30th, 2017 at 2:49 p.m. Last video I did was a year and a month ago, July 1st of 2016, and I was bringing forth the message saying, welcome to the last 3 months of the great half, the second half of the Great Tribulation. And boy, was that right on target. That was absolutely perfect. Man, I got ants running across my computer screen, but they're having a good time. Got a mountain climb. We've all been climbing a mountain for the past 30, 35 years, those of us that are the planetary volunteers. All of this planetary ascension began with messages that were coming in the early 1980s about geomancy and going to these sacred sites all over the planet and placing crystals, and then gathering for global meditations about 1985. And then right now, 30 years ago, August 16th and 17th, 144,000 of us gathered planet-wide to harmonize the planet, atone, that one-eyes the planet, attune with the harmonic convergence. And Jose Argalos did a fantastic job gathering so many of us all over the planet together for focused meditation, where we all connected our heart chakras to each other that was participating in that event. And that was one of the first major life-changing experiences I had, in the memory of the frequencies of home, of who we are, of what we're here to do, of ascension, of the singularity, of finding others that came here with knowingness, even as a child like me, and that knew that we were here to shift the planet and bring the planetary population, the planet itself and the planetary population, through the ascension process. And that was 30 years ago this next month, August 16th and 17th. That was 1987. In about 1988, 1989, I was going through a very heavy tribulation personally. We just witnessed the past 7 years of tribulation on a collective level, but my tribulation happened back then, and that was the understanding that there are different worlds here. What the 3D world that so many people were in, where God does this to them and everything's happening from the outside. I came in knowing magic and feeling my magic and playing with my magic. And the 1988 and 89, I was going through, is this really real or not? And that's exactly what the planetary population just went through from 2009 to from September 2009 to the end of September of 2016. And so my last video was welcome to the last 3 months of the second half of the Great Tribulation. Well, that all came from a message that I channeled in September 2009. It was an Archangel Michael message saying, welcome to the first half of the Great Tribulation. And it mentioned that the bottomless pit, the biblical bottomless pit, was soon to happen. And within 6 months, right out here in the Gulf, right about 70 miles from where I'm sitting right now, was the BP oil spill. British Petroleum, bottomless pit. And it's been a bottomless pit until now. And this is our first year having all of our convection rains back, and we're getting back to normal. something that I had channeled all my life since the 70s and 80s, is when that biblical bottomless pit would happen, only the Christ, those of us who were Christed, would be able to heal it, to close it up, shut it down. I'm not saying it's totally healed, but it is healing. And there are so many of us that are in that Christed states of being now that really the massive group that that started going through their Christing happened right at the end of 2009. That was November and December, and that was what that message was about, was to get the first 8,000 persons to shift their consciousness out of the duality and plurality, left brain, right brain, us, them, good, bad, light, dark, male, female, and into the wholeness and singularity of the heart. The Christing. The Christing. The Christing is not being very light over here and very dark over here, and we're trying to balance this. No, you're pulling that balance into your heart here. And the other part of it is not just being in your, just those upper spiritual chakras, the crown chakra and the third eye chakra, and this is the computer that casts the spells, or in the earthly chakras, the solar plexus, the sacral, and the root. It's about being right there at the heart. It's about bringing the heaven chakras and the earth chakras together, and bringing the light and dark together, and you're Christing yourself. Christing yourself right in your heart. That's what it's about. That's what the cross is all about. It's the bringing of heaven's forces and earth's forces to the 0 point, and bringing of the light and dark to the 0 point, and the 0 point within the sacred spot of the heart. The raising of the kundalini until you activate your crown chakra and you go back into your heart, or actually you're opening your crown chakra and then you go back into your heart and you activate the heart chakra, and then all the other chakras start activating. Then the Christing unfolds. And that's exactly what was going on from November, December 2009, and then by Venus transit of 2012, we had 144,000 of us on the planet that were activated. See, before 2009, there had only been 8,000 enlightened beings, ascended masters, Christ consciousness persons that ever had gone through the process, become an earth ascended Melchizedek. That's what it is. Well, anyway, back to that 2009 channeling. The biblical bottomless pit was being foretold then, and it unfolded in April of 2010. And also the dates of the first half of the Great Tribulation were given, which would be February. Actually, at that time, because the channeling took me 3 days to complete and then get out, and so I gave dates from February 19th to February 22nd, 23rd of 2013 as being the halfway point. And then Pope Benedict miraculously resigned on the last day of those dates in February 23rd, 2013. And the ending of the Great Tribulation ended September 31st, the end of September of 2016. And what happened on October 1st? The very next day was New Earth. And what happened? The International Monetary Fund allowed the gold-backed Chinese renminbi or yuan into the International Monetary Fund bread baskets of currencies, bringing down and collapsing, the beginning of the collapse of all fiat currencies around this planet, changing the globe. We were into New Earth on October 1st of 2016. Since then, we've left the global tribulation, and we have entered the global apocalypse. Now, what is apocalypse? Apocalypse is the unveiling, the opening of the eyes so that you can see what's actually going on the planet. The tribulation was about, is this real? Are we really creating that? Is it a quantum universe and we're really creating our experience? That's what the tribulation's about. The apocalypse is the unveiling, which really brings everybody to see the slavery system and the corruption and the crap that's been going on, and the depth of it, and how it is, man, it is a matrix. It is a complete matrix. And it's the exposing of that matrix. And that's what we're into now. And that is exactly why I haven't been doing any videos. What I witness is everybody, including myself, experience some sort of polarization, very, very heavy polarization, as the apocalypse started unfolding. And with the presidential elections of 2016 and the Republicans, Democrats, which, I'm not for either. I'm for the change of the planet and the exposing of everything. And although I'm not a Trump supporter or backer, I'm very grateful that he's been doing his expose and really bringing out charges. I mean, he's bringing down the whole pedophilia and everything the Central Intelligence Agency used to control U.S. congressmen and heads of corporations and heads of the military and so many persons. They used pedophilia, and all of that is being exposed, and people are getting arrested and brought up on the charges, and it's just amazing what all is going down with it. Like I said, I'm not really I wasn't a Trump backer and supporter, but I'm very impressed that he's doing what he's doing. And just yesterday, he announced that he's going to audit the Fed, that which nobody else would do. And I think it was JFK was the last that said he was going to audit the Fed, and they killed him. And now everywhere you look, you see the messages on that there's certain groups that really want to take Trump out. I personally feel that there's enough of us shining the light on the situation that he will be protected with our light. See, that's one thing about being a Christed, enlightened, ascended being. And ascension is this trip, this time, it's in body, and we're staying on the planet. And that was what a lot of us back in the 1980s and early 1990s, we didn't understand then, because every time that we had ascended before, we left planet. We had a drop body, or we created a dimensional doorway that we went through and stepped into another density, another dimension of reality. And some people had witnessed that, just like Enoch or Elijah or Yeshua, or there's a lot of people that were known to ascend in front of other groups of people, and it was documented historically. This time, we're doing it as a group in various waves, and we're remaining here on planet. We're doing it consciously in the physical vessel. And what happens when you bring the heavens forces to the earth's forces and your polarities into center, you form a tritial field around the heart, because that's where the base of the energy is emitting from. That is 0 point right there. And it happens because you have to be out of here and in here more than 51% of the time. You're feeling and not thinking. You are not using this computer to do anything except to generate the manifestation. You're using it in a proper way. And you're just being the being that you are. I looked down, it was 144, right as 1444, right as I said that. You are being the experience of the being you are. You're allowing your levels of the higher self to operate through the physical vessel. You're bringing heaven into earth. And you got to get out of your ego, which is located in the brain. The ego is all about who we were, just like my ego would be everything that Bill Ballard had learned this lifetime and perceives as true in reality in this linear level. And you've got to get out of that linear level to really start allowing the higher messages and higher energies to come through, to channel the messages, to channel those energies, allowing heaven to operate here on earth. That's what Christing's all about right there. Enlightenment, ascension mastery. There's a lot of persons that feel that you've got to leave and go someplace. And that's what this time is about, is there's enough volunteers here that we're doing it among humanity. Used to, you would leave and go to the Himalayas, go to the to the ashrams on the top of some mountain, sit in a cave and meditate until you achieve that level of frequency, bringing your higher self in, and then you can just exit from that point. This time, we're bringing it all in. Why? This is the part that most people don't understand. Why are we doing this? Well, it's not just 1,000 years of peace, but there's only one being here on this planet having 7 billion different experiences of itself. 7 billion differences of it, one being self. The only way that being can become the singularity again is to pull in all the fractals, to ascend all the different individual components. So as each one of us wakes up and realizes this is a quantum universe and we are creating our experience, and we go through that ascension process, and we have the magic, because that's what happens. I mean, when you activate and go through the Christing, the enlightenment, the ascension, you start having incredible magic that is just everywhere around you. Your life is totally magical. There are different levels of that, and it has to do with how much you're in your heart compared to how much you're in your head, how much you're focused on a singularity of a thought or just a state of being versus how much you're thinking. And then you start just witnessing and noticing those singularities. You're not in your head, so you can hear, go right. And then something that you had been saying you want to manifest just happens to unfold. A person you haven't seen in a long time just happens to be right there. And the magic, that's how the magic happens. So many people feel that you got to have absolute control over it and a little wand and go, bing, this is what I'm going to have, and there it is. And that's not exactly how it works. Consciousness, the thought, the vision, all the rays, the sound of invoking it, that's what creates the experience to be brought forth. You're actually generating that experience. And that goes back to, that's what the harmonic convergence was about. That's what opening the 1111 doorway was about. Harmonic, we atoned, onenized with each other on this planet, and we set a frequency around the whole globe of peace, of higher level ascension, of home, the memories of home, and we put those frequencies into the planet. The opening of the 1111 doorway in 1992, January 11th, 1992, what we did in our wheels within wheels ceremony of the living beings, we generated a vortex between Earth and the galactic center, the very center of this Milky Way galaxy, and we created a vortex that went over this planet. And the Schumann resonance started picking up. The planetary frequencies started increasing. The age of technology, the technical age, the age of computers, the internet, happened after we did that. There were different stair steps every 16, 18 months from then until 2012 that we were coming together in ceremony again, and with the same intent, holding the vision, speaking it forth, casting it, invoking it, doing the mudras, setting energy into motion, emotion, putting the energy into motion to generate the experience of the ceremony. We increase the frequencies of this planet. What that led to is what happened in 2009 with the minimum mass number of 8,000 persons that needed to shift their consciousness out of their brain and into their heart and go through the Christing and ascension or enlightenment process. By doing that, we sent waves around the planet then that began the planetary ascension. Also began the tribulation for the collective of humanity. And so as the individuals that were the volunteers, those of us that came here for this time, began our activation and enlightenment process, that wave went around the planet and was helping to raise the frequencies so that the tribulation, so that others could go, is this really real? Or are we really creating this? Look at all the synchronicities. Am I doing that? And by questioning that, you play with it. And by playing with it, you realize it is real. And then you can do something with it. But first you have to acknowledge it, see it for what it is, acknowledge it, and then you can do something with it. Well, that is leading up to what's going on in August of 2017. 3/11 as I look down right then. The Harmonic Convergence, 30 years after those of us who were the volunteers gathered to atone the planet, to harmonize the frequencies of the planet, which thereafter you had the Berlin Wall collapse, you had the Soviet Union collapse, you had China opened up its doors to foreigners for the first time in 50 years, and I was one of the first people to go in there, and I spent 3 years in China after that. And bring in the light, man. Got to bring in the light. That was a dark place. And it's changed since then. It's changed drastically since then. Well, that happened after Harmonic Convergence, and now we're going into August of 2017, and it's the 30-year anniversary of the Harmonic Convergence. And within just a few days after that, we have something that is going to change this planet forever. And it's the total solar eclipse. 2344 as I look down there. The total solar eclipse that is shining on no other country is coming right across the United States. I'm going to Paducah, Kentucky at I think it's called Atlanta Lakes. And that's just about the 0 point of totality, which is about 100 miles north of my farm in Tennessee. I know other friends that are going to be on the western side of that in Oregon, and some that are going to be on the eastern side in the Carolinas, and we're all holding. We're all gatekeepers, and we'll be channeling the energies for the greatest intent to set into motion the final collapse of the existing system for the best it possibly can be, but at the same time setting the energies channeling the higher energies from the galactic center into Earth for the future, for the best of what we can be. And Sandra Walter has done some amazing work with that, and I'm so proud of her. And that's another reason why I haven't done videos, is so many people have really just taken on everything that I ever did, and I'm just like, all right, watch them go. That's pretty cool. And so I can kick back a lot more, let them do their thing, because we're all getting the same messages. And so that's the whole point, when you can tune into the singularity, depending on what it is you're trying to receive information for. We all get the same messages when you're tuned in the same frequencies. And there's, of course, different octaves that we individually hold, which attunes to the octaves that you can get that information from. You can't exceed your realm out there unless you've got the light and frequency being held within the physical vessel here. And that's why a lot of people, even like, say, yoga instructors that are fantastic at what they do, they can't get the information because they really haven't gone through that neutralization of the karmic and shifted in the heart. They're still playing on more of a linear stage. It's not a good or bad thing. It has to do with octaves of frequency. And it's not really higher or lower, although there are expanded higher vibration octaves, because that's what frequency is all about. It's a wavelength. And how fast that wavelength goes is the frequency. And how high that frequency is the faster and faster that it does go. A slow wavelength is like this, and a fast wavelength is like this. And the height going down to the lower part and then meeting back at the same center part, well, that band is that frequency, and you get the wavelength. But that's how you measure the wavelength of that frequency. And there's different levels of consciousness with each different bandwidth. There's different levels of understanding. There's different levels of magic. There's different levels of channeling the energy in and out. And so that's the easiest way to relate how that works. That's coming to me right now. But anyway, as the total solar eclipse unfolds August 21st of 2017, we're going to see a major collapse in the structures on this planet. 120 years ago, there were some books written, Life and Times of the Masters of Far East. I have talked about it on video a couple of times, and it discusses how all this shift that will come 100 plus years into the future, right now, will happen beginning here in the United States. This is the key point. Why is it the key point? Because this is the head of the dark operations. This is the head of the deep state, of the CIA. Yes, you do have Vatican. Yes, you do have City of London. But Washington is the military industrial complex. They're the bullies. They're the guys that send out the hitmen to kill people. They're the ones that really want to be the strong arm that is allowing the control system to stay in power. And that's what's coming down. That's what's getting exposed in this apocalypse. It's just amazing how every day there's just more and more information out about that. Now Julian Assange has really done some amazing work with the information that he's verified and put out, showing exactly how deep this matrix goes. Many of us were telling the stories best we could, but all the information that he puts out, which could be 50, 75, 100,000, a couple 100,000 emails discussing the depth of it all, paints the picture and gets you to really understand how the matrix is made, and who's behind it and what's going on, and that nothing is as you think, and that if you're polarized as a Republican or a Democrat or some religious whatever, and I'm not saying that any of that's bad, but if you're polarized in that, you're not going to understand what's going on here. And anyway, August 21st of 2017, the total solar eclipse, all of that is going to start busting loose. I would imagine that this financial system is getting ready to fully implode. I would say for sure, make sure that you've got, some dried goods stockpiled and a little silver or gold and maybe a garden going and a good cast net. Some good books on gathering wild plants, learning how to dehydrate them, because no telling how long it's going to take between when it does bust loose and when everything gets up and going again. A couple of solar panels might do you some good. Some LED lights, a lot of things that you can charge yourself. Am I trying to preach fear? No. It's just understand what is going to happen when this does break loose. Many of us have thought that it would happen prior to now, and we're really surprised that it has taken this long. But when Trump announced the auditing of the Federal Reserve Bank yesterday, and in September 30th of 2017, we either have to raise the debt ceiling again, which enslaves the planetary population even more, if you're going to allow them to, if you want to play that game, and allow them to have that power, or you got to audit it and shut it down and say nope. Well, it's that nope that becomes the issue, because that creates the change, and when that change is set in motion, you better be ready. But see, what we've got to do is we've all got to help each other. There's only one being here having 7 billion experiences. And when that time comes, we're all going to have to help each other and support each other and share. Persons who have gone through their ascension and Christing enlightenment process know that if you hurt another being, you're just hurting yourself. If you're lying and cheating and deceiving another being, you're just doing it to yourself. And so that's why we can't do that. That's why we have to hold the highest integrity. Not just the highest light, but the highest integrity. And plus, I mean, you can't even go through your enlightenment process if you don't have that integrity. You're not going to get there until you resolve that you're going to live in the highest integrity at all times. And that's the only way you can get to that point. And then you got to clear up your karma. And you got to clear it up 51% just in the ability to shift from here to here. That's just a fact, Jack. And then the ascension process, the initiation, is how much you're here, how little you're here, and there's a ratio there. Ratio's ratio. And anyway, there are massive amounts of people I see out there as I'm watching videos recently talking about the frequencies that they realize themselves to be now, which is exactly what I've been trying to relate to this 3333. So many times I've been trying to relate that it's all about the frequencies, because the frequencies is who we really are. We are not these physical vessels. This is our earth transportation mechanism. This is the temple that houses those frequencies, those levels of us, which we truly are. But when you really get this experience, you've got to let those levels of self come through and operate best it can through this physical vessel. So in doing that, you've got to get out of your head and into your heart and out of your ego and trying to control the process. Yes, you can play with the magic and be a magician and enjoy life. There's a lot of persons out there that feel that when you get through this process that you need to give up your enjoyment of life, and that's just not a truth. That's when life becomes really fun, because you've got the magic. but you've also got to do the work. And we're here for the planetary ascension. We're here to ascend the planetary population. We're here. I mean, the awakening of humanity, well, they're awake. There's nobody I talk to out there that hasn't got an inkling that something's going on. Now, that they are responsible for it, well, that's where they've got to go through their process and come to those conclusions themselves. That goes back to this time that we're coming into the apocalypse, the unveiling, and what it's about. As this unveiling unfolds and more people do go through their enlightenment ascension process, it's going to continue until such time that everybody here on the planet has done exactly that, has either gone through their process and left and gone back home to whatever star system that they're from, or is still here on this planet and knowing that they are creating their personal experience, and we're not only doing this personally, we're doing it collectively too. And with that, we can no longer remain in this 3D, 4D environment. We have to totally shift into a 5D, 6D environment, a density, a higher level, because it's expansion. Dimensions has to do with frequencies, and densities has to do with expansion. A higher density is going to have the molecules fall farther apart. It's just, think of it like this. Okay, in coming to the material experience, we are great angelic beings that literally fractalize from archangelic beings into angelic beings. And our angelic being is a higher, more expanded density, and it can look down and hold the whole Milky Way galaxy within the palm of its hand. You know how many of us do healing for Mother Earth from our mastery, our physical level, and we envision the Earth in the palm of our hand so we can more direct the energies to that from a higher state of being. Well, truly, our angelic self in a higher density is doing that with the Milky Way galaxy. And a part of that angelic self fractalizes itself out, comes through the Arcturian corridor, and materializes in light being status on Arcturus. And that is the overseer of all the temporal forms, whether we are part of the royal house of Sirius, or we're Pleiadian, or Andromedan, or all, that's the temporal forms, just like this physical vessel now. Those lives come and go. The light being self takes a little bit of itself, its whole self, and fractalize out into the Sirian, into the Pleiadian, into the Earth experience, into the Andromedan, whatever, the temporal forms. And to ascend, it's all got to come back into the one, and then that's got to go back into the angelic being, and that's got to go back into the archangelic being, back into the Metatronic being, back into Prime Creator. It's ascending from that which we descended from. Now, as we realize that we are much greater beings, and we start going through this process while we're in physical form, because we're channeling those angelic energies, we're channeling those archangelic energies, we're channeling those Metatronic energies and Prime Creator energies into this level of the material earth plane. As everybody here starts waking up to that's the game that we're all playing, then we cannot be in this level of existence anymore. And that goes back to the very last prophecies of the book of Revelation, where John saw that there's a new heaven and a new earth. It's because we shift because of our consciousness. Our consciousness realizes that we're creating this within this quantum universe, and we can no longer be unawakened, unaware, and we can no longer play in the 3D in that polarity separation game when you have gone through your ascension process. And that's why we have to get everybody here on this planet ascended. It's really simple, it's really basic, but it's really complex, and that's what the harmonic convergence began so many years ago. There's many of us that came here with memories of the future, knowing before that time came that we would be there. And there's many of us that remembered that we were getting ready to have another gathering when we were called to open the 1111 doorway. But the thing is we had a second time around here. There's many of us that the first time in this reality in the 1990s, we went through an ascension process and we left planet, dropped body, created the dimensional doorway and walked through it, and we left everybody behind. And we got to 1,000 years in the future and found that we couldn't go through our process because we didn't bring everybody else, all the other parts of the one, the other 7 billion individual parts, fractals of consciousness that are that one, we didn't bring with them. And so that's what this time's about, is bringing them all back in to that singularity, the waking up of who we truly are. And when everybody wakes up, then we have the big shift. Then it's a different place. It'll be a different place. It's already a different place now compared to what it was last year. Feel the energies? Yesterday, the Schumann resonance went through the roof. Now, why is the Schumann resonance going through the roof? Because consciousness is expanding. Because consciousness enlightenment is occurring. Is that occurring because of the photon belt? Well, what did we do in 1992? We created the vortex between Earth, through our star, through our Alcyon, the great central sun in the Pleiades, through Sirius B, the great central sun, through the center of the Milky Way galaxy, the great central sun. And we created the portal, the wormhole, from here to there. And when we did that, then we started increasing the frequencies because we were shifting places within this galaxy. We had to, as we increase the frequencies, we can no longer be on the farthest end of that merry-go-round in the Milky Way galaxy. We've got to move to the center. And so we don't feel as dense anymore because we're not hanging on to that outside of the merry-go-round as it's spinning around. So we're not getting thrown to that outer edge and into those densities. We are becoming more centered as we move faster and faster, moving towards the center point of the spiral. That's what's going on in these skies. Those of us who have been watching the Milky Way galaxy for 20, 30 years now know that we're shifting places. It's big time. And with that, the Schumann resonance, the planetary frequencies increases. So it's all part of the same spirals. And so it's just like from a friend asked me in 2009, what are we going to expect from 2012 to 2016? And 2012 was that center point. We were over here in 2009 and we experienced the height of those frequencies, 5D frequencies coming in here in that very first part of 2009 to 2012, and then we came back into some darkness we had to clean up and get rid of, the expose, the leading into the Apocrypha, and even within ourselves. And then we crossed that point, and now we're going forward. That was the whole 7 years. The first 3.5 years, the second 3.5 years. Now we're into the Apocrypha. The tribulation was right there. Now we're into the Apocrypha, and we're moving on. And the awareness is being raised very, very quickly. And frequencies are being raised very quickly. And the Schumann resonance is being raised very quickly. And everybody's doing their part. And that's the coolest part about it. And it doesn't matter who they are. Even Team Dark is exposing themselves. They're doing their part. So, it's now, there are different types of ascension, and I need to say this here and now, because you have the Ascended Master Spiritual Hierarchy Ascension, which holds the polarity against Team Dark. They have to be so pure and so light that they are way over here in this super high light, because the other side is in this super high dark. They want to kill the planet. They want to destroy everything. Well, that is the spiritual hierarchy ascension, because it's a counterbalance and it's a war. The lighter these guys get over here, the more dark it's got to be over here. But the cosmic ascension, the heavens forces to Earth's forces, bringing those polarities to the center right here. The cosmic ascension, you lose that battle that's going on of the light and dark battles. And it's not that we're not aware of it, we're not focused on it, but we're not playing in it. We know what's going on, and we can neutralize out those vibrations from our own heart. We can neutralize out the polarity. We can calm the waves, calm the frequencies. That's what it's all about. It's done with consciousness. It's done with intent. How do you keep out a Gulf oil spill? You do it with consciousness and intent. Push it away. That's how magic's created. You've got to have the light and the frequency within your field to be able to make the magic. And then you got to use the consciousness with intent. But you don't have to be in that super, we're the light, it's holding down the dark. No, because then you're in a polarization consciousness. That's where we have been for thousands and thousands of years. And it's been a good thing because that's been the experience. That is the duality experiment that is bringing to the close. Now we're going into the realization that we are all part of the same being and each equal manifestors. We each have the capability of being equal manifestors. It depends on how much light and frequency that the individual holds, though. What level, how long he can hold the intent. That's the mastery right there of what it is that they wish to manifest. And so now for me, and that goes back to what's coming up here August 21st, and that's bringing the highest outcome for all involved. And to me, it's the highest frequencies. It's speeding up the process. It's making it's protecting the balance of the field. It's neutralizing any of the heavy waves as they come through. What's one of the most powerful forces on this earth? A wave. Try to stop a wave. Yeah, that's a difficult thing to do. A wave can take down a lot of stuff. And that's what the Harmonic Convergence was about. That's the opening of the 1111 doorway. That's the activation of the original 8,000 that led to 144,000 ascended masters here by June 2012. And so try to stop those waves. Can't do it. We accomplished them this year. But now we're surfing, we're riding the waves, but we're also baffling the waves because it's getting ready to get even more chaotic than what we've seen since the 1st of October of 2016 when this Apocrypha really began. So anyway, this is going to be quite interesting. It's a beautiful time to be incarnate and to be on earth witnessing this. We all wanted to be here for it. There is a lot of uncertainty and a lot of fears out there, and it's those fears and uncertainties, and that's what we have to hold space for. And when whatever is getting ready to happen as this shift goes through, we got to teach people how to take care of themselves. You give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. You teach him how to fish, and you feed him for life. Yeah, that's the truth. And that's what's getting ready to happen. And we're going to have to make some drastic changes. Is the RV real? Well, I don't know. I'm grateful to my friends sending me currencies. I have been watching everything come down for a while. As many people know, I was the Minister of Infrastructure for North and South America with Swiss Indo. But I just wasn't going to be controlled and manipulated, so I'm not part of that anymore, although I still hold the title. I didn't surrender the title. I still have all the paperwork, but is it for real? I don't know. um, I do know that the St. Germain's Trust is real. uh, do I really know that? No, I don't really know that. I get the messages, but I get a lot of messages that seem to change, and that comes with a quantum reality and holding so much of my higher self, because whatever messages they send me, it might be to hold a frequency and have a certainty and a level of vibration, a level of confidence as we go through various processes that could be otherwise very freaking scary. So are we going to have an RV? You know, something's got to happen. My feeling is we need to get away from the use of money in the first place. But then there again, we also have to transform our planet. We've got to transform all these structures, all these buildings, all these vehicles, and we've got the technology. It's all off the shelf. But money is going to have to come in there to do it. And just like I said, with this ship that has just been released that uses not only wind and solar, but it fractures water with the PEM fuel cell and saves the hydrogen for the time when it hadn't got wind and solar, we've got to put that in every house and every vehicle. That's how we ship the planet. Back to the climate change, everybody was bummed out that Trump, he got us out of the climate change agreement. Well, that was a very bad agreement. That was on neutralizing how much energy we actually produce. Well, producing energy doesn't necessarily cause a lot of carbon, and carbon's not a bad thing. These trees would not do very well without carbon. Carbon dioxide is a huge thing. And for these bozos to try to enslave us with carbon taxes because we breathe, or because we utilize things on the planet. It's these same guys that are trying to enslave us with that had put us into the carbon-based economy that we've been in with the petrofuels. So what Trump did was a fantastic thing. But we've got to shift into solar and wind and be able to store it in ways that aren't using a whole lot of rare earth materials like lithium-ion batteries. And being able to use PEM fuel cells. In PEM fuel cells, use carbons as the plates with a platinum membrane, which is the catalyst that allows the hydrogen to pass through it, but the oxygen not to pass through it, and separates that hydrogen and oxygen so that it can later reuse that same hydrogen in its pure form to generate electricity and distilled water and heat. When you use it in reverse, we've got to use those things we've got to use money to change this planet for right now. And either we have a government in certain powers that be that give it all out for free, or we've got to create an economy that revolves around that, which I'm not about doing these economies at all. I'm about, let's get rid of the economies and just build what we need and share it. And everybody do what they want to do. If you want to grow food, you're going to grow more food than you can actually use, and then share it. If you want to be a machinist or you're always going to, if you're doing what your dream is, you're always going to be producing more than you can ever use yourself. And that's when we give it away. We build a different society rather than having these economies based on doing whatever we need to do for money and then use that money to get whatever we want. We've got to get away from that structure, but humanity's not ready for that. And so we've got to continue on using these things for a while. So is the RV real? Well, we're going to have something backing all this stuff, something to utilize as money for a while. So So I guess it's gonna have to happen somehow. We got to use. There's got to be a monetary change, and it can't be a fiat currency, because that fiat currency is what's enslaved the planet. You know, the Apocrypha has showed us that one quite well. And there's a lot of us that have been saying it for a long time, and people are going, "I just don't like having to work." Bullshit! I don't mind work. It's the money issue that I have. I love to work. It's the money that I get. Money, see, money can never be a proper energy exchange. Ever, ever, ever. There's nobody that's equal, and there's no way you can put a person's worth into what a dollar is worth, what a certain ounce of gold is worth. You can't do it. It's an impossibility. That cannot ever mimic the light and frequency that I hold as a Christed being within my field. And that's my true value right there. There's no way money can be an equal exchange for that. No way. So, anyway, this is going to be a very interesting next few years, and very interesting next few months. And my view is Trump, if he's auditing the Fed, we're not going to have a Fed for very much longer. And when that happens, when that Fed goes down, boy, I mean, that's going to be like a dinosaur. It's going to kick. It's going to be dead, but it's going to keep on kicking, and it's going to have a powerful punch. Some sharp teeth and sharp claws, and it's full of very bad bacteria. You want to beware of that. So, yeah, it's time to just make sure you got all your bases covered, and just go into it with confidence and peace and neutrality, and neutralize these waves, and pray for the best, focused on the best outcome for everybody coming this October 21st. And I got a birthday on October 12th. I get the middle of the Passion, or which is it? I get a shooting star event every year on my birthday, and right then it just slipped my head. Got the shooting stars start on August the 11th, and they height on August 12th, and then they start coming back down on August 13th. So these next few days and few weeks, we've got a lot of events going down. Right now, we're into the energies of the Lion's Gate and the Syrian energies. And those of us of the Royal House, we are very aware of what's going down here, and of the intensities of these energies. And we just put them into our field and send them out, and add a little love and pixie dust to it, and send it on out to everybody else. So that felt good to do a video after a year now. I don't know if I'm going to be doing a whole lot more anytime soon, but I sure am watching everybody else's videos out there, their work, and what they have to say. Magenta Pixie, you are just amazing. Thank you so much. Sandra Walter, you're incredible, sister. And I can go on and on and on down the list. Love y'all. I'm been under the radar and kind of ducking out for the past year, and I'm needing that time for myself, and a lot of other projects and things that I'm working on, and my family's waking up and going through a healing process, and it's much needed. So things that I've wished all my life is happening now. Great changes are occurring. So anyway, I'll leave y'all with that. Have a fantastic Lionsgate and full solar eclipse. Hope to see y'all all in the totality as it unfolds. Anyway, love y'all. Bye for now.